Alrighty, pleased to have on today from Atlanta, Georgia. Went to university and played golf down in Alabama. Currently on the Korn Ferry Tour and is a professional golfer. I'm excited for this interview today. We're happy to have join us today Zack Sucher. The one thing I'm sure he didn't learn is, you learn how to use a time clock down at Alabama. But hey, we're happy to have him on today. Zack, thanks for jumping on the podcast.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Okay, first off, what's new with you? What's happening? What's going on? And, what's happening in your world?
Oh, man, not a whole lot. It's been a very slow year. I had PGA Tour for the last few years, but didn't play very well, especially at the end of last year, and dropped down to the Korn Ferry Tour, and hasn't been a great year out there either. But my game's trending in the right direction. It's last few months have been pretty solid. So excited for what the summer has coming up.
Well, I can confirm that. I saw Zack play twice in the last week, basically.
It's getting there. It's game's finally in the right spot now.
I think if you go back to the yellow ball, you're fine.
Yeah, I did. I had played better with the yellow ball. I think I made more birdies for sure with the yellow ball.
So Zack, when Torrie's looping for you, obviously you're playing cash games, I'd assume, but are you working on things when you're out there? Or is it like how does that all work? Or is it just trying to you're hanging out and just getting some reps in?
Yeah. So Birmingham is pretty cool for golf right now. Shoal Creek has been way more laid back as far as cash games are concerned than Greystone. Greystone's where the bigger gambling matches are. And so Shoal's more of a go out there, relax, work on your game, and enjoy the round of golf for the most part. Whereas Greystone is more money changing hands.
The rollers.
I like it.
It's the gamblers the big gamblers are all at Greystone, but Shoal's just a more nice walking fun round of golf.
I love it. Okay, I want to backtrack here as you always do. Growing up, and I believe it was Atlanta, Georgia. What was a young Zack doing golf wise? Were you playing hockey? Was there football? Was it always golf? I mean, just walk us through it. Just a young Zack.
Yeah, so I was born in Atlanta, but I moved to Mobile when I was 2. So I didn't really have any real time in Atlanta. So I grew up in Mobile, Alabama, until I went to college up here and stayed. And so in Mobile, I played pretty much everything growing up. I played a lot of football, but never actually any organized football. That was the only sport I didn't play that was baseball, basketball, soccer, everything else I played other than football, really. But yeah, again, I played football pretty much everything else.
I can't believe you didn't play football because you are a truck.
Yeah, so I haven't grown any since when I was 13. I was 200 pounds and 6 foot tall. But it wasn't. My brother actually had a football injury, and my parents didn't really want me to play football, and I loved it, but I was always pretty much tied up in baseball, basketball, and golf were the 3 ones I did until then. And so I actually told my parents that if I wasn't full on the varsity team my 7th grade year as a starter, that I'd probably play football as well. And I made it through, and I was like, all right, I'll focus on this. But everyone wanted me to play because I was huge when I was young.
That's awesome.
That's a good segue. You mentioned basketball. I just found out last week that you were an all-state high school basketball player.
That's right.
No way.
If I was only a foot taller, I might be doing that.
How tall are you?
I'm 6 foot, but I need to be 7 if I'm going to do anything with that.
Well, Torrie made it sound like you were 6'7".
Bo Jackson of American high school.
No, I was good at most sports growing up in high school, and then early on I was really good because I was big early, and slowly everybody just kept catching up to me and everything. I remember playing basketball at age 10 through 13. It was pretty much turn around and make a layup was my whole game plan the whole entire time. I didn't have to do anything, and then slowly everybody caught up to me, and I learned how to shoot eventually, which was nice. But I want to go back to the days when it was 30 points a game just making layups from right-handed layups. That was the only thing I did.
I love it. That's awesome. Torrie, Rip.
Oh, I got a million questions. So you won on the Korn Ferry Tour. Let's go way back. You turned pro in 2009. You played a couple years on the Hooters Tour, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
And then how did you qualify for Korn Ferry Tour? Or was that just through PGA Tour School?
Yeah, so I had a kind of a slow start, which was, I think, kind of good in a way. As I came out of college, I went to Q school my very first year out of college, and I made it through to third stage. But this is back when you could get on the PGA Tour from it. And I think I finished like 90-something, and 26 through 75 had full status. And then after that, it went partial status. So I think that year I played like 7 Korn Ferry events. Or it was this is back with the days when it was the nationwide. Played like 7 events, which was kind of nice because it got me a show of like what it's like, how good some of the guys were, and like it wasn't just fully thrown out there to where status mattered, everything. Like it was a very nice slow start. And I played on the Hooters Tour the rest of the time, which those guys were ridiculously good as well, and kind of learned a few of the things I needed to work on. And for the first 2 years, that's what I did. Next year, I did the exact same thing. I made it through to finals, had partial status, played like 5 events. And then I think it was in 2013 or something was my first full year of having Korn Ferry status. And that way that was the year that I actually played pretty good, kept status. And then the next year with full status, I made it through to my first year on the PGA Tour.
So how, like, we haven't had a whole ton of PGA guys. We've had a handful, but what was that first win on the Korn Ferry Tour like? Like, how was that feeling? I'm sure there was just relief.
Yeah, I had a very wild stretch of golf that year. I had I played. Hold on. I had a very wild stretch. So I ended up playing 14 straight weeks of golf that year.
Oh.
And I was, for the first 7 of those 14 weeks, I was between 20th and 30th on the points list. It was bouncing back and forth. And I was like, man, I want to take a week off, but you can't take a week off when you're borderline on PGA status. And so I had I went out to Boise, and the schedule was just a disaster that year. I think we were flying all over the country for like 10 of those 14. It was awful. And I went to, I'll go ahead and tell you how bad I was. I went to Nova Scotia and had a good week. Flew from there to Salt Lake City and missed the cut. From there, flew to Boise and played, in which I finished 4th and jumped up to pretty high. Flew from there to Kansas City and won in Kansas City. And it was like, all right, I'm on the PGA Tour. This is awesome. Like, I remember me and my caddy at the time celebrated I birdied the 16th hole, and it was a crazy windy day. And it was pretty much, it narrowed it down to me and one other guy. And we celebrated on the PGA Tour before we got to 17T, because I could finish like triple, and I'd still be full on the PGA Tour. And we were like, all right, we're going to the PGA Tour the next year. Like, this is awesome. Now let's win this and forget about this. But like, the main goal of the year is already done. It was crazy exciting that we had definitely took a sigh of relief as we're making it to the PGA Tour. And then I ended up winning there. Go to the next week, was in San Francisco, and finished. Oh, well, all of a sudden when I won, I was like, man, one more win. I'm playing great. I don't want to take time off. I can lock up number 1 overall. Finished 2nd the next week in San Francisco, which moved me, I think, 2nd on the money list at the time. And so I'm like, oh, now I'm going for the full status guy that gets to play in, everything. The players gets, 10 more events than anybody else on as a rookie. And so then I kept going and played the 14 straight weeks, ended up finishing third on the money list and was absolutely exhausted heading into the PGA Tour. It was a horrible decision. We had a week off and straight into the fall. And I mean, I was just like, it was awesome and exciting and incredible. And also like, I was so ready for a break by the time the PGA Tour came around. It's crazy the way it works. So I learned a whole lot from it. Hindsight, I would have taken off three of the four finals events and it wouldn't have made any difference at all on starts.
That's wild.
I get tired after playing 2 days in a row.
It was way too much. I mean, it was like, yeah, I have not done that again since then. And I won't ever do it again. It set up for a very bad run of golf when I was playing great, just because mentally I was just checked out for a month straight afterwards.
100%.
Crazy. Rip.
Yeah. All right, Zach, I want to backtrack a little bit here. Talk about some junior golf. Did you dominate right away? Or were you a guy that had to work hard? You took your lumps and you had to figure it out?
I feel like every step of the way, I took a lump. I took my lumps. I took my losses. Like figured out I need to be better at golf in the start of like each section. So like in junior golf, we had an awesome high school program, which was incredible. I think my 8th grade year, all five of the players went Division I on scholarship, which is pretty nuts from a smaller school in Mobile.
Yeah. Wow.
And so like that was pretty wild. And so like my 7th, 8th, and 9th grade years of junior golf were like a struggle to make the high school team. Like I was always bouncing back and forth between like the 4th, 5th, and 6th guy on the team. And then even really my 10th grade year was kind of that way. We had a really awesome group of guys. And then my junior and senior year, I was really good in junior golf. I won a whole lot of events. Was really good in high school golf. Had a lot of choices on where I wanted to go in college. And hindsight, I look back and I'm like, I don't know why I passed on some of the schools I passed on. I'm very happy I went to UAB because the golf is better than anywhere else as far as like where we practice every day and play and that kind of thing. And I was kind of looking at that, but I was in high school. I don't know why I didn't pick Alabama ahead of UAB as far as
you turned down Bama?
I turned down Bama and I went on my visit and we went to, they weren't that good at golf was the problem. They had Sewell had just started there. Saban had just come there. They weren't that good at golf. They weren't very good at football. UAB was like 2 years in a row making it to the 32 in basketball. And I love basketball. And Graham had just left. Was
Gator there at the time?
Torrie's punching the air right now.
Yeah.
Gator Todd was at Alabama. He was a year older than me. They weren't very good. And then like 2 years later, they're like unbelievable at golf and football and like, I mean, everything. Like it was wild. Like UAB's, I don't know. Hindsight, like Saban had just got there. The Saban effect hadn't set in yet. Like they weren't very good in football. And then I pretty much narrowed it down to UAB, UCF, and Alabama. And Alabama's golf courses, like I love playing golf. I'm not a big range guy. And I went on my visits and I'm like, man, y'all play Shoal Creek and Greystone and Old Overton and Vestavia. And I'm rattling off like where they play every week. And it's like 6 of the top 10 courses in the state. And I go to Alabama and it's like Old Colony. And I'm like, oh, well, man, how am I going to do that? And so hindsight, it would have been pretty nuts going to Alabama and watching all of that for 4 or 5 years. But and I got to UAB and it was kind of the same effect. Like we had a pretty decent golf team right out of the gates. We were almost every year I was there, we were top 50 in the country for the whole year, like never fell out of it. So we were decent, never great, but never a bad college team. And it was kind of the same thing. Like my first 2 years, I struggled a bit and tried to, figure out what I needed to work on. Short game, I needed a lot, my big misses. And so, but then again, by my junior year, I'd kind of figured it out and was like, all right, I think I'm going to try to go pro in this. And And so yeah, it was always like a couple learning curve for at least a few years to answer that question.
Love it.
Zach, so you just talked about college, and I know a lot of our listeners, maybe half of them would want to know, how it all works. And like some of them from Saskatchewan, it's a lot tougher to get to those big schools. But maybe walk us through the process of how you went through it and getting with a college, and how was the experience? What did you take out of it? Just your whole time there, like walk through just how it all works and what you most enjoyed and maybe disliked. I don't know.
Yeah. So you're talking about just how like the scholarship process works,
Like almost
getting
like
to figure out where you want to
process. Yeah. Cause like, for us, like me and Turner hockey guys, like we would scout players and bring them to a program, or, Turner would get scouted to go play for a certain team. For golf, I think it's similar, but almost harder because there's no draft and there's no this. It's just, hey, you want to play? I heard you're a +6. You're a good kid. You have your family, have some money, whatever. Come to our school. Like just maybe the process.
Yeah. So for the most part, your junior and senior year of high school, especially if you're honestly, for me, I don't think I had a single letter from any college at all till I think it was my sophomore or junior year, the summer.
Wow.
One of those summers, I had a really good stretch on the AJGA, and
right.
I had no status on the AJGA. Still may be like, I don't know what's harder to get full status on, like the AJGA or the PGA Tour. They run like neck and neck. Like it's like you have to win an event to get into one, and then you have to play great in that event, or you're done and you go back to win another one. Like it's horribly hard to get in that club. And I won like a Southeastern Junior Tour event, which was one of the ones you had. There weren't very many you could win to get that would give you an exemption into AJGA. And I won one that got me an exemption, and I finished like 5th in it, which top 5 gets you into the next week and gives you like conditional status or something.
Okay.
And then I finished 2nd and won in Georgia the next week, and followed that up with like a 3rd. And all of a sudden I had full status, was in their big events. They're like, remember the Rolex and the HP at Bay Hill, and like they had all these big like major events on that tour. And after that 3-week stretch, I bet I had like 30 or 40 letters from colleges to come take a look and were showing interest and so I kind of like blocked it off to the Southeast schools. Like I wanted ones that I could play golf year round, that I wouldn't be indoors, and I wanted school. I didn't want to go across the country either, and not get to come home and do all that kind of stuff. And so I kind of blocked it off to the Southeast, and I went on, I guess, like 4 or 5 official visits, which was just kind of going in and seeing the practice facilities. And so I reached back out and say, hey, I want to come to one of these schools, let's set up a time. And I think I did that with 5 or 6 schools. And basically I had kind of said, I was looking at like practice facilities, golf courses they get to play. The rec was a big decision with UAB, and that was with everyone. I wanted to know, like, because I still loved basketball. I was playing, especially my first few years. I played school was an afterthought, which is sad to say, but like, it was sleep in, miss most classes that weren't test days, golf till dark, play basketball until the gym closed, and go home and do it over again the next day. And like, that was pretty much the routine for my freshman and sophomore year. And so like going in, I was looking at like, okay, what's the rec like? What is the golf like? Do I like the school? How are they in other sports that I like to follow? And I've told this story. If this guy ever finds out, it would be funnier. I've told the coach of it, but I was pretty certain I was going to go to UCF until the end of my official visit. And he's now the coach, Coach Clenard. He's now the coach at Auburn. And I love their golf courses. I thought Orlando was pretty cool. And I was on my visit, and he says in the very beginning, like, here are the freshman dorms where all student athletes stay for their first 2 semesters or something. You're basically required to stay there through the sports program or something. And I don't know if this is a good guy or a bad guy. I didn't know him that well, but what little I knew of him, this guy named Cornelius Carroll committed to UCF that year. I was on the trip down there with him, and he looks at me and says, "Oh, Cornelius Carroll just committed," and they had 2 scholarship spots left. And I was like, "Well, I'm not rooming. I don't know much about this guy, but I know I'm not rooming with him for 2 years." And that was the end of that. And like, I immediately X'd UCF on like my list, which I think he ended up only actually making it a semester, so it probably would have been just fine.
Yeah.
But it was like, again, I didn't know that much about the guy. The guy could have been a great guy, but like, he was one of the least liked guys in junior golf, and I was like, I never played with him, but I was like, I'm not staying with this guy for 2 full years. And so yeah, that was the end of that, me going there, which was part of the thing. Like, you want to have a great time. Like, I don't want to be,
it's important.
you want to like your roommate. And one of the other things with UAB on my official visit, they checked off all of my list of like what I was looking for. And I knew 2 of the guys that were already on the team and liked them a lot. And like, we had enjoyed our time playing golf and junior golf. And so like, for me, it was, am I going to have a good time? Is the sport going to be good at the school? And how is golf going to look like every day? I don't want to be sitting on a range at Old Colony, which was the downside to Alabama.
Yeah, no, that's fair. So there it is. Make sure you make the right choice, everyone listening, and do your homework. Torrie, what's up?
Well, let's jump into PGA Tour. Well, I've got a couple questions, but like, what was your first couple rounds on the tour when you actually, because I think you played as an amateur, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. I played the John Deere as an amateur, which was pretty awesome. That was wild. And my biggest takeaway from that week was just like, how in the world did these guys shoot 30 under par on that golf course? Like, it's not that easy of a golf course, but I learned very quickly that when it's soft and greens roll nice, that you got to shoot 5 under to not get lapped. But I mean, I went there thinking like, this place is pretty hard off the tee. Like, greens are all built up. This place is not easy. And I think like Stricker shot like 27 under and lost or something that week. It was nuts.
Yeah. It's wild.
How different was that? Like, I don't know how to word this, but did you feel a lot more comfortable once you actually had your card and played in a tour event, like your first couple events?
Yeah, I think like that event as an amateur was I was extremely nervous. Like, it feel very out of your league, which I was at the time. And I think my very first event as a professional in a PGA event, I was pretty nervous. And like, very quickly I settled into like, okay, like, this isn't that, other than like the top 20 guys, like, it's not much different than the Korn Ferry Tour. Like, these guys are like, you play good in a Korn Ferry event, you play good in a PGA event, you're going to be up at the top. It does, it doesn't make that big of a difference. And it's the elite guys are better and a little bit deeper, and like, that's it. But like, all the guys on the Korn Ferry Tour that play good would be up at the top in a PGA event. And so like, very quickly I learned that, was like, okay, this isn't that, the stage isn't that much different.
Zach, question for you. How well do you know my cousin Dale Vallely?
I know them not very well. I know the name.
The Dogfather. I was just curious if you knew him. I wasn't sure if you knew the PGA.
No, I know the name, but not. I don't know him too well.
Okay, next question. Does it lead into it? What's your go-to snack when you're coming around the turn? Is it a hot dog or what?
No, I eat, for a guy that's heavy, I eat very little on the golf course. And this is fairly new, but I find myself, those, they're like, then they're called Sahali. They're these little cashews. they're like this, okay. They're like, you can't find them very many. Walgreens has them. Most Walgreens have them. I throw those in the bag. That's my new like go-to if I'm going to have anything in the bag. Is that or beef jerky.
Okay.
Speaking of, you just brought it up heavy. I was going to save it for questions from the gallery, but since you just said that, it looked like you had lost a good bit of weight. Like, did you do that on purpose? And if so, why? And how did you do it?
Yeah. So, I've lost about 40 pounds right now from my peak, fatness earlier. And I took a look in the off season last year when I was playing pretty poorly. And this was kind of even before the year, right before the year ended, of like what I thought I needed to improve on the most. And, I started looking at like, I thought the number one thing I needed to do was actually pick up some distance. Like I was long when I was in college, and I've kind of just slowly, I've gotten shorter and everyone else has gotten longer. And it reached a point last year where I was like, I didn't play the par fives well. And a lot of it was, I was hitting a lot of 3-woods to reach them. And like the guys I was playing with were hitting 2 irons and 2, 3, 4 irons. And I was hitting 3-woods, and I was always at that like 250 to 270 mark. I felt like as like the average length of the PGA Tour's par fives. And I was like, man, like these, from that distance, when you have a 3-wood, you're looking at like, you're not looking at eagles. You're looking at like, where do I want to miss from? And like, where, where can I chip from here? And like, that's like, it's cool to be thinking about that, but like, it's a lot better to be thinking about hitting the green and like, where do I want to putt from? If I have a 3-iron in my hand, I'm thinking of where I want to putt from versus a 3-wood. And so I was like, all right, if I can pick up 25 yards, 30 yards, I'm now hitting irons into every par 5 instead of hitting 3-woods when I actually hit the fairway. And so I looked at it and was like, all right, if I can lose 25 pounds ish and get a little bit better flexibility doing it, get a little bit stronger and do that. That was kind of the plan. And in the start of it, I started hitting it pretty poorly and trying to swing harder. But now in the last few months, I've kind of wrapped it up into where like, I think I'm turning better. I'm making the right moves with my body to actually, I'm hitting it straighter and further and still working. I want to get about 10 more yards of carry off the tee and then kind of go through that. But that was kind of the start of working out, and then working out. But once you lose like 20 pounds, it's great. Working out becomes fun and it's a whole lot easier. So it's been kind of that way.
Probably didn't hate it.
No, she likes it. She's okay with it.
Yeah, I figured.
Yeah, I'm not eating all the leftovers every time.
Oh my. All right, Zach. Walk us through the day in the life of a pro golfer. Like, what's travel like? Are you working out lots? Obviously, you just talked about it. Like, what's in your practice regimen? Just let us know how that goes.
So most weeks I get there on either Sunday night or Monday morning for the most part, depending on what I did the previous week and how hard it is to get from one event to another. But it's usually Sunday night or early Monday. I actually am one of the golfers. There's not very many, but I actually enjoy playing Monday pro-ams a lot. Not just because they pay me. That's the nice bonus.
You like that cheese.
That's always a nice bonus. But like most of the times they're on, if they're not on the host course, which they usually are, if they're not, they're always on a really good golf course in the area. And I like playing new courses and new tracks. But in addition, I've met a lot of pretty awesome guys through like pro-ams and networking. I mean, I've met like so many nice guys doing that. And a couple have ended up being sponsors. A couple have been like great guys to know that have got me on other golf courses. Like, I'll never forget, I met this guy in California named Bart Goldie that I'm in an offsite pro-am with this guy, and through like 10 holes, I realized he's an Olympic Club member. He's like, yeah, I'll take you out there whenever you want. And I was like, I've played that course, but I really want to play their par 3 course across the road that every time I've been there, they're like, no, we don't really let people play this little par 3 course on the ocean across the road. That's unbelievable. And he's like, oh yeah, I'll take care of you on that. Let's go out there. And like the week after that, we went and played Olympic Club. And then I realized that he's not a member anymore, but he used to be for like 30 years and grew up out at Cyprus. And the next year he treats me and my dad. We're the first off in a twosome at 7:30. We play all 18 at Cyprus by ourselves. Like that was about as good.
Shit.
That's
Yeah, unbelievable. And I've played with him now 2 more times at Olympics since then. And like, I mean, what an awesome guy he's been. Like he keeps in touch, and like we've had dinner every time I've ever been out anywhere near San Francisco. And like guys like that I meet through these pro-ams, and it's been like I enjoy it. Like you play with awesome guys, members everywhere.
Yeah, no kidding.
For everyone listening, Cyprus is probably top 3 most difficult courses to get on in America.
Really?
Wouldn't you say, Zach?
Yeah, and to do it unaccompanied and to add another guest to it, like
That doesn't happen.
yeah, it doesn't happen. Like that was wild. Like I was pretty blown away by that. And I told my dad when I was younger, I was like, my dad's a huge golfer. He loves every bit of it. And he's played probably 50 to 60 of America's top 100. And he hadn't played Pebble. And I told him when I was in high school, I'm like, all right, you've done so much for me in golf. Like, I'm going to take you to play Pebble when I'm, out there one of these times, like before you get too old, I'm going to take you to play Pebble. And I came in, and I think it was like a month after I figured out we had set this up. I'm like, all right, I'm not going to take you to Pebble, but how does Cyprus sound? And like my dad went nuts, and like it was an incredibly cool experience.
So Zach, speaking of your dad there, would you say he's probably the biggest influence on you and your golf career and your life?
Yeah, absolutely. He plays. He's retired now, but he played even when he worked. It was like 4 days a week. He'd be there at between 3 and 5, and we'd play 9 holes growing up. And like he travels a whole lot playing golf. He's still now retired. I think he plays about as much golf as I do, but. But growing up, yeah, I had like no lessons from, he's a decent golfer too. His swing isn't the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, but but like I had no lessons on golf until I got to college. Didn't have a single lesson. So it was,
Wow.
It was mostly through stuff he knew, and he was always kind of scrappy. It was good on the short game stuff. So it worked out, great. And I got to do my own natural swing he never pushed getting lessons and doing all that kind of stuff, but it was a good way for us to spend time together and do all that kind of stuff growing up.
Zach, where do you play in Mobile?
Mobile Country Club.
Okay, love it. Good course. So going back to the PGA Tour, we're jumping all over the place here.
Yeah.
I love it, though. It's a good conversation. Let's talk about how big of a life changer the 2019 Travelers Championship was.
Man, that was pretty unreal for that week. That was kind of a big stepping stone, I guess, in like I'd always thought, the 2 tours go hand in hand. Like you play your good weeks here. I'd thought that before, and I knew that to myself, but like I had never done it. I hadn't played. I felt like I had decent weeks on the PGA Tour, but I'd never put together a good week like I had done on the Korn Ferry Tour, where I just played well for the majority of the week. And, I went into that playing really good golf. I'd played well on the corner. I had a second a few weeks earlier, 2 weeks earlier in North Carolina on the Korn Ferry Tour. And so like I was playing great and got there, and I'd always liked that golf course, but I was 0 for 2 on making the cut there. And I'd always said, like, I don't know why I don't play this course better. It sets up so good for like my shot shaping off the tee. Like I was very comfortable with a lot of the shots. I was like, I don't know why I haven't played well here, because I like this place. Like I feel like this sets up perfectly for me. And then I went out there and just played pretty much unreal golf, other than the 9-hole stretch on Saturday afternoon. That was just one of the worst one of the worst 4-hole stretches I think I've ever played in my life. Other than that, it was an incredible week. But yeah, life-changing wise, I mean, we went from struggling coming off of an injury, not knowing what the next year would set up. Actually, the 2 weeks earlier might have been as life-changing as it was there, because like we had no status, or my Korn Ferry status wasn't great. My PGA Tour was running out of starts. And with an injury like that, you get in this category where it's not like most years where you can just drop back and play all you want. It was like, I've done my 5 rehab starts on the Korn Ferry. About to have to go to the PGA Tour, and I really wanted to lock up some sort of status somewhere before I went into my PGA starts. And so the second in Raleigh was about as big as the second in the PGA, but money wise, it's you can't compare the two. It makes the next 2 years an absolute relax, like focus on golf, which is wonderful.
Like, what a relief. Not to get, it's none of my business, but I had heard you talk on another podcast about it. Like, you guys were getting tight money wise, and all of a sudden you bring home $633K. That's must have been just, you must have slept good that night.
Yeah. It was
that 6 swing.
Yeah, it was pretty nuts. Yeah. The money wise, the PGA Tours has a great like disability program for guys, but I have short-term disability now, which if it ever happens again, I'm going to be fine. But through it takes 7 days to make 7 months to make your first check on disability. And so that was 7 days of doctor's bills, rehab bills, which I was going to 4 days a week, without bringing in anything, with 2 kids. And like, it was falling off a cliff. All the reserves we had were just gone by the time that the disability checks started coming in. And so, and then we were slowly building back up, but then you start out and like stuff comes at you very quickly on it. I learned that the year I turned pro, like you have to have a decent amount saved up to get a start. 'Cause like a month of travel, paying your caddy and expenses and doing all that, like you run out of it quick out there. And, and so, yeah, that was an absolutely huge relief. But like I said, the 2 weeks earlier might have been a bigger relief of like, oh man, we can breathe now. We're not, finally got something coming in. I've got status locked up for the next year. I can count on like contracts next year. Like that kind of stuff was big.
That's huge.
Love it. That's awesome, dude.
Boys, I think we go into our segment called Questions from the Gallery. What do you guys think? Good with that?
Let's do it. Brought to you by?
Brought to you by Rubber Co. Rubber Co. was founded in 2021. It's made out of 100% recycled tires. They have so many things to offer: rubber parking blocks, rubber ramps, rubber flooring. We also have hockey devices for you. Check them out today at www.rubberco.com or call today at 306-541-9840. It's time today to think with your head and choose the right rubber. All right.
Zach, how do you like the boys' Canadian accents?
Man, that's great. It's not too bad. Like, it's not that trying to think of the golfer that had the one, Johan Benson. Did you ever hear that name?
I remember it, but I don't remember the golfer though.
He does something. He was on TV doing like some sort of stuff golf related years ago after he was done with his golf career. His accent, I mean, it was strong and it was awesome. He had that French Canadian accent that was just wild.
Yeah, we're not French Canadian.
No.
Les incompetents. Okay. First one. Low. Actually, I want to know three quick ones here. This is the Rubber Co. minute.
Holy shit! 3 quick ones.
It's at a 10,
here you go.
20-minute segment.
Good luck.
Yeah. So here it is.
Got a notepad and a pen.
What is your handicap when you were in junior golf, college? And I know tour pros don't really carry one on the PGA Tour, but what's your pro cap right now?
So junior golf, I'd probably reached about a +2 by the time I went to college. And during college, the last one I remember having was actually a +6, which is wild to think that turning in all your scores, I'd got up to a +6. And I'm significantly better now than I was in college. And so I'm trying to think of who we hung out with here in Birmingham. Somebody did this like 2 years ago and was like, I'm going to turn in everything I just want to see what I'm at. And like, I think almost every pro would be between like, depending on where you play, because like course ratings make such a huge difference. And like some courses we play, if I played there, I'd be a +12. Like you'll see like a 77 rating and you're like, this place isn't hard at all. And like those things change, matter a whole lot. Like some course ratings are just wrong. And I think everybody I've ever seen is between probably a +8 and a +10 or 10 to 12 if you did every score in, just because like the rating
just +8.
That's
a joke.
I mean,
my last question I'd ask.
Yeah.
How come tour pros don't like keep a handicap just for shits and giggles? But I'm sure they do. They roughly like, I'm a +8 or +9, but like, why don't they have like a Golf Canada or Golf America handicap?
More folks getting that bag.
So, surprisingly, I don't know why people haven't done it in tournaments. Like I don't know why the Korn Ferry Tour, for example, doesn't post what their guys are at. Like it would you get a tournament, you're already +1. Take the course rating, take everybody's score, and do it every week. And at the end of the year, post what everybody would have one by the end of the year. You throw out, you take your averages, you do all that. Like you'd all have one, but like, for example, they played in, I don't know what the course rating is in Texas Arlington last week, where 14 under finished 50th, like whatever it was. The scores were absurd on the Korn Ferry Tour. Like, I don't know what I'd like to go online and look up. I'm sure I can find it online. I'd love to know what the course rating is on that golf course, tipping it out. And you got to add a handicap for it being a tournament, because tournament pins, that's part of their regulation thing. And I guarantee you every single person that makes a cut, if they played 20 rounds, would be a +10 at that golf course. Like it's ridiculous. I mean, it's probably would say it's a 76 course rating, and you add a tournament and you shoot 16 under and you get lapped. Like it's kind of wild for those weeks.
All right, I got my homework done there.
This one's from one of our sponsors, Dave Stewart of Molson Coors Canada. What's the most overrated tour course in your opinion? You may not be able to answer this because you don't want to burn any bridges, but something that everyone's like, oh my God,
Augusta, you'll be all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Augusta.
You get shot.
Yeah.
That's I don't know if I can answer that exactly, not because I'm worried about offending people, but everything is so condition related. And so like, and not just like, were the greens bad or good, but like how the course is meant to be played with the design of it. Like, for example, I have no issue saying that Pinehurst #2 is, in my opinion, the one that I've played that is hands down, it's not in my top 500. Like I had no fun playing it, and I was excited, and I thought it was awful, but I played it. I'll go ahead and say this, played it after like 10 inches of rain the previous like 5 days. Greens were slow, fairways were slow, rough wasn't that thick, and greens were soft. And like you missed a green, you got up and down like it was a piece of cake. And there was no like
sign me
turtleback effect because of that. No so I hated it. Like I just thought it was like this long, boring golf course. Like let's all go see who can make 15 pars and like a birdie and a like it was terrible. And like, but I've talked to guys and I haven't played it since, and I'd love to go back. I need to go back and play it again with with it being fast, because that would change everything. Like I think if I played it and it was, the greens were a 13 and firm and the fairways were firm, and I also played it before the redo, but I think even with the fast greens, I'll make this example. I played this course. I actually earned my tour card there later. It was Canterbury Golf Club in Ohio. And it's where one of the finals events for the Korn Ferry Tour used to be, one of their four finals events. And I played it about 2 months earlier with my dad. 3 months earlier with my dad when they played another event up that way. And we actually drove it. We drove through and we stopped in and played it. And the greens were slow and soft. There was no rough and the course was short. And I shot 6 under, didn't play very good, and was like, this is not a very good golf course. Like, we're going to chew this place up. It's going to be terrible. And it was like it's an old style golf course. And it had hosted, I think, multiple majors, had an incredible inside of the clubhouse, was wild, and it had all the history. And I was like, man, this course just hadn't aged. They couldn't have any room to make it longer. Like, just not great. And I came out there for my practice round, and the greens were like a 13 and wildly undulating compared to what I thought they were. Like, they just don't like Augusta. If you played Augusta and they were a 9, you wouldn't think anything of it. Like, if you watched it, the greens wouldn't roll out the right way. You wouldn't think like there would be no, thought process of where to miss and all that. It was kind of the same thing there. And 9 under par ended up winning the tournament. And
Wow.
in Ohio. So I played well there, but I remember like 2 under was a great score. And 3 months earlier, 2 under would have been 135th after the first round. And instead it was a good score. And like, so that kind of stuff. And then I thought the course was incredibly, and I earned a bunch of respect. Like, it was awesome. And so I think how courses are rated have to be determined on like how they played and like, can they get the greens like they want? Did the rain cooperate? Is it too windy to have the greens at a 13? Like, that kind of stuff I think matters a lot in how courses play. And so like, it's tough to answer as far as like what's overrated. Cause I've seen Torrie when it was soggy and not any fun. And I've seen it in the open when it was firm and it was awesome. And so, that kind of stuff is just matters so much.
Ripper.
I think what was your welcome to the PGA moment?
Oh man.
Nice question, Ripper. I like it.
Yeah.
Fuck, mine would be snap one into the gallery off a guy's leg and find it. Oh,
Yeah.
thank God. Playing amateur events, I'm shooting 6 off the tee.
It was probably my first year out, my third tournament, because they start out pretty slow. Like, Napa doesn't have very big crowds. Palm Springs doesn't have a big crowd. And my third event was at Torrie, and I was on the same course as Tiger. And that was during one of his like miniature comebacks. Like, he hadn't played in a year or two, and he signs up late and comes in, and I was on I was on the north course, which is even more wild because I'm sure he had more on the south course. But I was on hole 10, 11, 12, 13 T and 16 T are pretty close to each other. And he was kind of making that turn when I was going through the other spot. And the roars from the crowd, and just, he had more people following him than were at the whole course combined, the other 2 courses. Like, it was not counting the grand. I mean, you can count the grandstands on 18 on the other course. Like,
Yeah.
Like, he had so many people following him. It was ridiculous. And that was like, oh my gosh, this is this is what I came to see. And like, I had never been to a PGA event to watch, and I've never seen the Tiger. That was more of a Tiger effect than a welcome to the PGA Tour. But like,
Yeah.
that was like what stands out in my mind is like, whoa, this is awesome. Like, there's
Yeah.
a sea of people out here.
Welcome to the show.
That's
Yeah.
wild.
Literally.
So my brother's not here today. He's one of our co-hosts. Always asks this question. Just be kind of curious to know your answer. He always asks a dream foursome to play with. He says dead or alive, preferably alive, but yeah.
We say golf.
Tiger for sure. It's got to be golf guys.
Yeah.
I like
No.
I think everything.
It could
Like,
be Elvis.
MJ be sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would be golf guys anyway. I'd throw Jack in there, not because he's my second favorite golfer. And I wish I could go back and like get prime Jack or like 20 years ago Jack. He doesn't seem the Jack like now. I don't think he would answer, but I would like to hear and see the competition between those two. If they could be, doesn't matter who you think's better or best of all time or comparative, but like the fact that like those two are like the rivals of all time as far as like majors, wins, all this other stuff. Who's the greatest?
Yeah.
I'd love to see the competitiveness between those two. I'd love to be a part of that. So it'd be Tiger, Jack, and then gosh, I don't know who my fourth would be off the top of my head.
I'm right here, Zach.
Honestly, Ernie Els. He was my favorite golfer growing up.
That's a new one.
That's a new one. That's
And-
first.
Get out of you too on the golf course.
Yeah, I'd like to just watch his swing. I like everything about him. Like when I was growing up, age 6 through 15, like he was a landslide favorite. Like he was the guy I liked watching play golf. Like I liked the fact that like he bombed it effortlessly. Like he didn't look like he was swinging hard when he hit it hard, and like he was always like my favorite golfer growing up. So that and by the way, one of my favorite moments ever was after my second at the week after my second at the Travelers. We were in Detroit up there, and Tuesday on the range, Ernie turns around and says, "Nice playing last week, Zach." And I was like, "Yeah, here I am." Like,
Oh my goodness.
Sick.
seeing my childhood hero tell me good playing was pretty cool.
Hey,
Yeah.
just don't fly on the same PJ as him.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. I heard he's pretty
Hey-
tough. I already like.
Hey, is it true he can put him back pretty good?
Yeah, well, I don't know, but that's all I've ever heard as well. Is that he's a tough man. I'm sure he can do that as well.
That's awesome.
All right. That was Drew. Up. Sorry. Okay, here's a fun one. What's the difference in food from Korn Ferry Tour to PGA Tour?
Oh, it's
Granola bars.
I'm not gonna complain. I'm not gonna complain about the Korn Ferry's tour because I'm not ever gonna do that. And some weeks it's great, but some weeks it's not. But it's still free food. And I'll never forget I think it was my first ever start, which was like, I'd already had probably 8 Hooters tour events before my very first ever Korn Ferry or nationwide tour event at the time. And I cannot remember the player that did it because I wish I could because it'd have been great. But I remember coming in and being like, "Oh man, free food this week. This is amazing. Like expenses are down. Like I love this." And I'll never forget, it was in Valdosta, and this guy comes in complaining about food. And I was like, "Man, it's free food. You can't complain. No one complains about free food." And so I'm never going to complain about any free food, but I'll say this, the PGA Tour feeds you like a king most weeks. I mean, it's ridiculous. In particular, probably the really good high-end clubs do it ridiculously well, and then TPC courses do it ridiculously well. And like Wells Fargo being at Quail Hollow, the food is unreal that week. And a lot of those events do it like that. But the TPC always has incredible foods. They always have like, you know, I have everything. Like you walk through there and you eat like a king all week.
So who's got the best?
Between
no number one. What's that?
For as far as food, what's my favorite week of food of the whole year?
Best one. You look forward to it all year.
Mine's tomorrow.
Probably, gosh, it's either Travelers or Quail. It's either Quail Hollow or the TPC up there for the Travelers at they have 2 separate like function nights where you can come in and eat, and both of them are unreal. One's a lobster night where they just keep bringing out lobster and clams and like just unbelievable food. And it's really close between those 2 weeks until you add in the fact that like they have probably a better fun, but so does the Quail Hollow does a night function too. So I don't, I'm going to go with Travelers. Like it's tough to pass up all you can eat lobster at least once, if not twice that week.
Wild.
I love it.
Okay. We talked food. We talked golf. We talked college. We talked junior golf. We talked all the golf. What is your thought on music on the golf course?
Like during an event or during?
I mean, with the boys maybe, or the gals.
With the boys, it's almost always playing.
Love it.
And I enjoy it a lot. In a tournament, there'd just be too many people playing music. They'd get like a nice surround sound for the whole field. It'd be unbelievable. But no, it's when I'm playing around in golf, like, which is wild that I'm usually not the guy with the speaker, but somebody always has one, and I enjoy it a lot.
So I've always wanted to know this too. Like, I don't know, have you played the waste management before?
I've played it once.
So guys that like go there and it's a lacrosse game environment, and then the next week, where do they go? They go to
It can change. It's like Pebble.
Okay, yeah. So it goes from like lacrosse environment to like church. And like, do some guys like the waste management because everyone's partying, having a time, it's loud, it's a fun time, and then you go to like, now we're back to.
Yeah, for the most part, like, I think it would get incredibly old if every week was the waste management, because it's nuts. And like,
yeah,
there's a lot of like hassle stuff that goes on with that week. Like you can't stay very far from the golf course because of how many people are pouring in each day.
Right.
And when there's that many people watching, like, again, this is stuff that like only the people in the top, if you're not top 100 or top 50 in the world, you have these problems. But like to stay at the place right by the course that week's like 6,000 for the week. And like most of the players stay there, but like those are the guys that are top 50 in the world that are forking out 6,000 on a hotel room for the week.
Yeah.
Me, on the other hand, I'm renting a house that now takes me like 45 minutes to get to the golf course, and have to plan on that both ways, and or finding a hotel that's still available. But for the most part, on the golf course, it's awesome. But like, it would be too much if it was every week. Like, but I also would like to say, like, I would like it if like 10 of the weeks were like the waste management, because it is so much fun. The whole back nine is probably the most fun I've ever had playing golf.
That's awesome. Well, it's good to hear, because I feel like some people don't like it, but I feel it's great for the game. So
it is. It's and I'll also say this on 16 is I've been in loud environments. 16 green might be, in particular the back pin, might be the only time where there's ever been that many people, but I could hear what people were saying. And it's like fun and nerve-wracking, and like you can't imagine the mean things people are saying when you're out there trying to get you to miss, because they're everybody's betting and gambling, and like,
oh yeah,
the one drunk guy wants you to make it, so he's your best friend, and the other drunk guy is yelling at you, things I can't say.
You can say anything on here.
Torrie, Rip, any more? I got one more as I always finish it off with, but Turner's good. Torrie?
I got one more quick one from the gallery.
Absolutely.
Is there PGA Tour groupies, like chicks that follow around the tour and try to pick up the players? That's from Anonymous.
From Torrie.
From horny Torrie.
That's from horny Torrie.
It's not. No, it ain't from me.
I am
Torrie.
100% certain that there are individuals that have that follow around to try to do that. As far as like the PGA Tour as a whole, no, but there are like some of the events put on parties that like you would go and that would happen. Like there were, I mean, for waste management, if you show up as the PGA event, if you show up at that whatever party, what do they call it? The
Shriner something.
whatever party concerts they do every night. Like if you show up with your player's credential, like I mean, if you like that stuff would happen. Like there's not like in a lot of the events have like a party or a concert at night where that would be expected if you went, but they don't have like, but you know, as far as like outside of the top 20 guys in the world, like I know there's no groupies following around looking.
Hey, so your wife's not missing that event, huh?
That's right. Well, yeah, I actually, you know, she came and I was with the kids and I babysat twice and she went.
Oh, wow.
She went with a couple of other wives and had a good time at the concert. I'm not, you know, not too worried about it. I honestly, like, I'm not a huge partier. Like, I don't enjoy like a party scene. So I don't have any interest I'd rather go fishing or stuff like that than go out at night.
Oh, Drew, before the last question, Zach, what's your biggest bass? I can't believe we didn't even talk about fishing yet.
I have with a scale on me, I have no 10-pounders. I have probably 10 that are in the 8 to 10 pound, 8 to 9.5 with a scale on me. I have one fish that I am certain is a 10-pounder that I caught at Steelwood down near Mobile, which is an awesome fishing spot. But I can't consider myself in the 10-pound club without a scale on it. But that was my biggest bass ever. And you know, I'm old school with the fact that like unless you get a picture with the scale on it, it didn't happen.
Honestly, do you ever go for redfish?
A lot. I grew up doing redfish and trout down in Mobile. Like that was my favorite thing to do. And yeah, speckled trout, white trout, and redfish are by far my favorite.
The best. Okay, I'm done, Drew. I'm done.
2 more. I forgot. This one's quick though. Lowest round ever.
60 at the Korn Ferry event stop in Boise.
Fuck.
Albertsons.
Fuck.
Albertsons with a 3-putt par and a bogey. I should have had my 50 round there.
Home of friend of the show, Graham DeLette.
Place is awesome.
That's wild. Okay, here's my last one. This has been great today, Zach. We always ask some advice for a young listener that's listening today, whether it's to be a pro golfer or doctor, lawyer, you name it, be successful in life. Some advice for them listening on what it takes to make it.
I would say focus 80% of your time on short game and understanding how to play golf, not on having a pretty swing and doing TrackMan numbers. Everybody I see today loves to have a beautiful swing and they love to get these TrackMan numbers. And I see so many high school and college kids that are good that like I'm blown away by their lack of understanding on how to play. Like they throw away shots right and left. Like the people who make it to the next level learn how to score. And it's not about like, it's not about doing drills. It's not about having it look pretty. It's not about anything. It's about getting your ball in the hole. And there's like an art to scoring. And I would say quit practicing so hard and play golf a lot until you understand how to score. And then when you practice short game, because the rest of it, everybody hits it good and everybody hits it bad, depending on what day it is. The guys with good short game, they have good short games. They are day in and day out better at short game than the other guys. And that would be my advice.
I love it. Well, Zach, man, this has been a pleasure today. A lot of fun. Torrie, Turner, I know we all had fun with this one here. We're wishing you nothing but the best back on the PGA. Yeah, man, I had fun today. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks. I had fun too. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks, Zach. Thanks for your time, buddy.
Thanks, Zach.
All right. No problem. Thanks, guys.